All right. Okay, that sound probably means we're recording. Okay, cool. All right, guys, so let's just get into it. So welcome to tonight's presentation on software testing practices. I wanted to tackle this oh, someone's joining. Let me just let them in. So I wanted to tackle this topic because it was something that I personally really dreaded doing when I first started doing it. Oh, more people are coming in. And, you know, I started realizing that it was kind of useful. And so I decided to incorporate it into my coding toolkit. And I also recently learned, and Andres and I were just talking about this earlier, it's not something that's very commonly taught in boot camps. Oh, wow, there's more people joining in. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so as I was saying, software testing, it's definitely not like the sexiest topic to talk about, but it will improve your practice more than learning the latest tech ever will, in my humble opinion. All right, so anyway, so what is software testing? It's kind of obvious. I just pulled this definition straight from IBM. Software testing is the process of evaluating and verifying that a software product or application does what it's supposed to do. And the benefits include preventing bugs, reducing development costs, and improving code performance, straight from IBM. So basically, you're writing code to test your code. So why would you do something like that? Like, that just seems like extra work, right? And probably is, but software testing can save you a lot of issues down the road. Like, this is an issue. This is a list of like a bunch of issues that have come up when software has too many bugs in it, which, you know, if you test your software, like, those bugs are less likely to happen. But like, you know, little mistakes can lead to catastrophic things. Like look at this one. Some of Amazon's third-party retailers saw their product price reduced to 1 penny due to a software glitch. Everything was like 1 cent in their store. That's not good. So anyway, like, apart from like avoiding catastrophic bugs, you know, you are catching edge cases, you're making your code easier to scale, and you're also providing a layer of documentation alongside your code. You know, as your app evolves and the kinds of data structures that you use change, things may start to break, and your functions may not work as you expect them to because the input has changed, or, you know, whatever. Anything can happen. You know, having tests for your code, you know, that are comprehensive will guarantee that those kinds of bugs are caught without having to spend a lot of time jumping around your code base. You know, you'll pinpoint those issues more effectively, and you'll save lots of hours of debugging down the road. All right, so I just want to mention, like, there's like different testing methods and frameworks that you can use. So tonight we're going to be using the Jest framework because I think it's very beginner friendly. And then we're going to be, there's a lot of different methods of testing, which is different from TDD, which is a software development approach. These are methods of testing. We're going to be working on unit testing because that's also pretty simple, easy to get on board with. You know, then, you know, you might end up doing integration testing if you're building, for example, APIs or more complex functions, or you might be doing UI testing if you're working with something like React. So anyway, so this is the approach we're going to take, test-driven development. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's writing tests before you write your actual code. I don't know if, I mean, some of you guys were in the initial Devs for Devs meetups. You guys might remember that I pushed this problem-solving framework pretty hard. And I think it fits very nicely into the TDD approach to writing code. So we're going to keep this problem-solving framework sort of at the back of our head as we go through tonight. So, you know, understanding the problem, exploring concrete examples, breaking it down. I'm just reading the slides at this point. You'll have a recording of this anyway. So before we dive into the code, I'm just going to go over some pros and cons of adopting this as an approach. So, I mean, I personally like it, so I'm kind of biased. So I'm just going to start with the pros. First of all, using this approach really forces you to think about what you want to do with your code. You know, the essence of TDD is you write your test first, you write enough code to make your test pass, and then you go back and refactor it if necessary. And because you do that, you make your code more modular. And when it's more modular, it's simpler to understand, and it's simpler to test, and it's simpler to debug. You know, and and the other pro of this is that it makes you and other people who work on your code more confident that your code is working as expected. So it's sort of like a psychological kind of reassurance that code is working. I mean, not psychologically, you know what I mean. But anyway, the cons of using it, like the main trade-off I would say to adopting this approach is that it's slow. And, by design, it's meant to be deliberate. And it's also not the most beginner-friendly approach, not because it's super complicated, which, it isn't. The idea is not complicated, but it's just it requires a bit of discipline to stick with it. And it also relies on your tests being well-written and comprehensive. So, yeah. All right, so I'm going to close my slides now. And before we start writing code, I want to give you guys an example of what a test might look like. So I'm actually going to show you some code that I've written. Let me see. Nope, that's not the option. Okay. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah. Kind of all the text.
Okay. All right. Can you guys see the text clearly?
Kind of small, but yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my monitor's been having issues. Like, I don't know, I just plugged it in and it just started acting weird. So this is what I'm working with now. But anyway, so this is a piece of my code. And so this is part of a larger app I've been working on. It was something that I invented when I used to be a teacher. It's basically like an app that takes words and transforms them into melodies. So basically, this function right here is sort of the part that the app uses to convert different letters into different musical notes. So don't be too concerned about the actual implementation. Basically, just know that it takes an array of words from user input and the filled letters object that gets passed in and converts the letters to notes using the letters to notes object, which is this guy right here. And then it returns an object containing an array of notes to play, an array of letters to toggle for animation purposes. So now if you go over here, this is the actual test file. And this is basically what it looks like. It's you import the function that you want to test, and then you write this is the describe block. It's basically a function where all the testing happens. So you pass in two arguments. You pass in a string, which is basically the name of the thing you're testing, convert letters to notes, and then you pass in a callback, which is all of this here. So now in the callback, you call different functions, one for each test that you try to run. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you should see here, this is the results of the test. There's 4 of them. So yeah, 4 tests. So you basically write a test by creating an it function. I mean, in Jest, you can also use test, but I personally use it because it reads like plain English. It should work with one word with all letters filled in. So what I'm doing here is I am initializing these variables. And this is sort of where the documentation part comes in. You see in the test file what the input is supposed to look like. So for words, you have an array that says hi, and then the fill letters is an object where it has lowercase h set to true, lowercase I set to true, and then we run the function. We get our values. I'm doing it by destructuring here, and then I'm writing an expect statement. So this is saying expect notes to play, which is the outcome here, to equal this array, and expect letters to toggle, which is this guy here, to equal this array. So you can kind of see like where the documentation piece comes in. So, just to show you guys like what it would look like in the terminal, which would be down here. This is where I'm sort of running the tests. So I'm going to break it just so you see what it looks like. I'm just going to add an F. Why not? And so look at that. The test fails, and it tells you why it fails right here. So it was expecting this second F to show up, but in the actual implementation of the function, it just didn't happen. So now let's see what happens if I delete one of the notes. So again, I'm getting a failed test, and it's telling me what the failure is. It's telling me that it got this, and it wasn't expecting this. So yeah, so basically, let me just put this back. All right, so that's enough of that. Let's get to some writing. Let's get to writing some code now. Okay, so you guys should have this open. Hopefully you have npm installed Jest, right? We did that?
Yes. Could you please increase the zoom a little?
I'm sorry, what?
If you could increase the font size a little.
The font size? Oh, yeah, sure. How's that?
One more. Yes, there.
I actually like this. Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to write 3 different functions tonight, and we're going to write tests for them, okay? Just to get into what testing is. All right, so I'm going to do this I do, we do, you do style. What I mean by that is I'm going to write the first one for you, then we're going to work together to write the second one, and then we're going to try to do the third one independently, all right? So let's start with the first one. So if we're going to take the TDD approach, I am not going to write anything here, okay? So just so you guys know, this is index.js over here, and then this is index.test.js. This is our test file. So let's write our first test. All right, so first we need a describe function. So we are going to pass in a string, and that's going to be the name of the function. So that will be multiply function, just so we're clear. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pass in a callback. Okay, so now let's write our first test. So we're going to say it. Actually, I'm going to do a test just because guys saw it. I just want to prove that this works. So we're going to write our first test. All right. So we know that this function, we're going to multiply 2 numbers, right? Yeah. So what we're hoping would happen is that the function will successfully multiply 2 numbers. So we're going to say the test, it should multiply 2 numbers. Pretty straightforward, right? So now we're going to pass in a callback. All right, so now this is where the expect comes in. So we're going to expect the result of multiply. Oh, hey, I forgot to import it. Yeah, definitely import it. So multiply, let's say 2 and 5. We're going to say we're going to expect multiply with 2 and 5 passed in to be 10. Okay, so obviously it's not going to pass because we didn't write anything yet for this function. So so let's add that in. So we're going to return, yeah, A and B. A times B. Okay, so now we have that. Now we're going to go into our terminal, and we are going to type in Jest. And we have a passing test. All right, so Now, where it gets interesting with testing is you got to catch edge cases. That's sort of part of the art of testing. Because, let's say you want to change up multiply to take strings instead of numbers. I don't know why you'd want that, but let's say you wanted to change it, right? So what you want to do is make your test signal that the function is malfunctioning. I made a pun. The function's malfunctioning. Okay. Nobody? All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to create we're going to create a new test. It should throw an error if one of the inputs is not a number, right? So, and I'm glad I'm showing you how to do an error because Jest has a funny way that they expect me to do it. So expect, now for some reason, don't ask me why. If you're gonna expect Jest to throw an error, you have to pass in your function like this. Fly. So as a callback rather than you're just invoking the function, right? Like this. So expect multiply to and let's say a number, right? This, we have an imposter in there. So now we're going to expect that to throw, right? So now I'm going to run Jest again. What the heck? See, function did not. Oh, I see why. Wow. You see, like this is one of those things where TDD trips you up. Like sometimes I forget that I have to write the code to make it work. So let's add some error handling. So we want everything that comes in to be a number. So we're going to just write an if statement, just checking if type of A is not a number. If I can spell number correctly. Or I'm just going to copy and paste this because that was a struggle to type for some reason. And this is going to be type of B. And then, so if that happens, we're going to throw an error. Yeah. All right. So let's try that. Let's see if it works. Yes. This is so satisfying. There's nothing like all green when you run your tests. Truly nothing like it. Okay. So hopefully that was a very clear demonstration of how to write a test. So I think we should write this one together. Okay. So we're going to write a function that checks an array to see if it contains a certain value. So you see right now, I want to pass in an array and a target. All right. So let's be good developers and use TDD. So what should we do first?
We should create a describe block naming what we're going to test.
All right, so we are going to call it, we're going to say does contain function. And then what's the next thing we do? We pass in a, I'm already writing it, a callback. Okay, and what goes in the callback?
The actual tests.
All right, so what do we want to test for?
If we pass an array and a target, if it contains, it returns true.
Mm-hmm. All right, so yeah, let's test that. So I'm just going to throw an it, just to show that it works. So what Andre said is we are going to check that it should return true if the value exists in the array, right?
Readability purpose, I would say if the value, if the target exists in the array.
If the target, oh, sorry, not value, target. We got to stick with our variable names. All right, so it should return true if the target exists in the array. All right, let's pass in our callback. So, all right, so how can we write this? We can do expect. Let's say we pass in, I don't know, someone give me a random array. So we should expect does contain, and great, it imported, does contain to, actually, you know what I'm going to do? What I do if I have an array that I want to keep testing, I like to put it up here. So const array equals, let's just do numbers. Good enough. All right, so we're going to say if it can, so array, if it contains this number, why not, right? That's as good a number as any. To B. Yeah. All right, what else should we test for?
It doesn't contain the target, it should return false.
There we go. Yep, basically. So return false. All I did was just copy and paste it. If the target does not exist in the array. So 0 is not in there. Well, this number is probably not in there either. Why is that? Oh, you can start numbers with a 0 in JavaScript. I did not know that. Okay, so awesome. So we got some test cases. All right, but what's one other thing we want to check for?
You actually have that in the second test, you are checking for true, not checking for false.
Thank you for pointing that out, Andres. I appreciate that. Yeah, there we go. That's good.
That's the problem of copying.
Yeah, copying goes so quickly, but stuff like this happens. And then sometimes I, sit there wondering why it's happening. It's happened. All right, so let's write. Let's see if we can write more tests. I'm sure there's a couple more. I can think of at least one more.
You should check if you have a valid array and a valid target.
I like valid array. Why valid target though? I think that's a good point about checking target. I didn't think about checking target. I mean, then again, like if you're checking the target, why would you want to check the target before I talk?
Guess it depends. If you have an array with only numbers and you only expect that to contain numbers, so let's say this function is there to look at a dollar amount, and when you have dollar amounts in there, you don't want to see a string or an object or something like that in there. But you can make it general, so you can pick up anything in the array if you wanted to. So I guess it just depends on the application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, I think, well, this kind of goes back to what I was saying about using your tests to document your code. If you have an example here, you're more likely to say, oh, this is what an array is supposed to look like. Like I would look at this and assume that the array is supposed to be numbers. Whereas if I started putting in things like true, null, high, this is going to be a nightmare, So yeah, so let's say we want to use this to check if the target is a number. All right, yeah, I like that. So let's do the target first. So it should throw an error if the target. Oh, someone is a little late to the party. That's okay. All right, so it should throw an error if the target is not assuming we're working with numbers here, right? So now let's do a callback. Expect does contain array, and then let's say I passed in a string that said hello, I'm a number, right? And so, oh yeah, and I forgot, because we're trying to test for error throwing, we have to do this. Don't ask me why, I have no idea. So we expect it to throw. Cool. And then, so Will, you said target, and then you also said an array, right?
Yeah, what happens if you pass in an object instead of an array? What
Yeah.
happens if you pass in null instead of an array? You need to check that.
So yeah, we want to check to see if it's an array, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to check, we're going to throw an error if R is not an array. So all right, so let's say we do pass in a valid number, and then this guy is like, hello, I'm an array, and we're going to expect that to throw. Okay, so I think this is pretty good coverage right here. We're checking to see that it returns true the way we expect it to. We're checking to see if it's false in the way we expect it to. We're checking to see if we get anything other than an array for our, sorry, target. That one's target. But yeah, that one's down here. Yeah, so we're checking to see if we're getting correct values for target and for array, not values. They're the data types that we expect them to be. All right, so I think that's enough to write a function. Let's write this function. So who wants to start?
The easiest, if type of target is not equal number, then throw.
Okay, yeah. Get the error checking out of the way. That's perfect. If we're checking the type of target, right? Target, if it doesn't equal a number, throw a brand spanking new error. Okay. All right. Well, we also want to check something else. So we're checking target, and we have to also check the array. Anyone know a way to do that? I think there's a go on.
The problem is there's this array method I was right now checking.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I think there is a method that
There's a dot is array method that you can use.
dot is array. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna put that in. So array dot is if it's not array, then we throw an error. Beautiful. All right, so I'm just gonna run. Actually, before I run this jest command, I'm gonna point out that it's really annoying to just go in here and just have to type jest all the time. So here's a little hack. I am gonna replace this test script. So this is what we run in here, and we're gonna pass in a tag called watch all. So just so you guys can see what that looks like. Oops. All. It should make it so that whenever you update a test, it will rerun. So we're just gonna keep that there, and just so this right here wasn't in vain, I'm just gonna do npm run test. You can just do that, and it has the same effect. All right. So, all right. Yeah. Sorry for that little detour. That was kind of necessary, but we did, where is it? Yep, so look at that. We have these two test cases handled already. So now we have to implement this part. All right, so now how should we do this?
You can use the index of method if you wanted to keep it simple.
Going for simple. Yep. I mean, writing these functions are not, yeah. So
Actually includes array method.
array method, like
Array dot includes.
oh yeah, I think that's the one. Array dot. Yeah,
That
I know.
returns a boolean.
I think it does. Yeah. So all right. Yeah. I mean, when I was thinking about how to do this, I was like, I'll just do it if state. I'll just do a for loop. But yeah, this is more straightforward. Okay. So we're gonna return array dot includes target. All right. Well, let's see if that works. Hey, that's nice. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna work independently for this part. So words, in case you don't know what a palindrome is, it's basically a word that's spelled the same backwards and forwards, like Bob is a palindrome. Race car is a palindrome. See, RACEECA. Yeah. These are palindromes. So yeah, we're just gonna create a function that checks to see if a word is spelled the same backwards and forwards. So we're gonna do this independently, okay? And please write the test first, okay? I want you guys to try it. All right, so I'm gonna stop presenting and I'm gonna work on it too. Okay. So someone just asked if we should write at least 2 tests. Write as many as you feel is necessary, but it should definitely be at least 2 in this scenario. I can think of at least 3. So yeah. So someone asked if a single letter is a palindrome, and I have to admit I had to look that one up. So I guess technically single letters are palindromes. There's apparently some I just Googled it, and there's apparently some debate about that. But I guess for the purpose of this exercise, I'm just gonna say yes, they count as a palindrome. That's an interesting idea. That just made me think of another test case for it. All right. So how are we coming along with rating our tests and our code?
I can share a minute my screen to show how
Okay.
I did. If you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know how to share your screen on this?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Go ahead. You should be able to.
So tell me if you can see it now.
Yeah, I can see it.
So I write this describe block here. I didn't remember the exact the name you named the function, so I just made a name.
Mm.
It's a palindrome. So
Mhm.
describe is a palindrome, and I give it the callback function. And my first test, it should throw an error if the argument is not a string.
Mhm.
And then another callback, expect, and this callback is a
Mhm.
palindrome. And I give it a number. So I expect to throw an error. This
Mhm.
is one. The next one, it should return true if the string is palindrome. And expect is palindrome, and I give it a string kayak to be true. This is
Nice.
another, and the last one, it should return false if the string is not palindrome. So I give it another string to be false. These are at least three tests.
All
And
right.
I was having problems here, so I just deleted. But
Mm.
I give
Oh,
it to
okay.
you. I give it to you to resolve it.
Okay. I mean, I like where you're going with the tests. I mean, you know, like the code itself is not really the focus of tonight's presentation. It's more about like getting into the headset of
Okay.
writing tests, you know?
Okay.
So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I mean, like, you know, I would probably try to implement it on your own time. I could share my solution with you if you want. I mean, I don't know where everyone else is at. Does anyone else want to share their solution?
If you want, you could guide me and write down what you say.
Oh, okay. Huh?
I have a solution.
You have a solution, Andres? Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, give me a second. Uh,
Okay.
well, I have a describe is a palindrome. It should return an error words not a string. It should return truth words a palindrome. Should return false if not a palindrome. I used two three-letter words. So here I have the function. If a type of word is not string, then throw an error. Then I basically reverse the word letter and compare that to and return the comparison. So that's my solution.
Okay.
Actually passing.
Nice. Nice. Cool. All right. So thank you for that, Andres. That looks great. Anyone else have any solutions? Will, you got something?
Yeah, but you guys pretty much covered what I had already.
All right. I can show my solution. It's a little different from what you guys had. Let me just do this. All right. So this is the solution I came up with. All right. Well, you guys can share my. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah. So basically, I did what Franco did. Checked if the word was a string. If it wasn't, cut. So I actually implemented a two-pointer solution for this. So I initialize a starting point with 0. So we start at the beginning of the array, and then I set end to be the last index of the array. So word.length -1. So what I do here with this is I run a while loop. So while start is less than end, if word at the index of start does not equal word at the index of end, return false. It's not a palindrome at that point. But if it is, we're just going to increment start and decrement end, and we're just going to keep going like that, keep checking. And if we make it out of the while loop, then that means we have a palindrome, so we return true. That was my solution. And they all pass. Yeah. So, yep. That is pretty much all I have for tonight. So basically, I hope you guys learned something about testing. I hope you've learned to like kind of appreciate what it's used for. These are definitely like small exercises, but I can personally attest to having a code base full of tests. Like I was working on one of my apps the other day. I changed a component around, and then like my tests got like really angry with me, and it told me that like another part of the app just stopped working because I made a change. So, testing is extremely valuable. Have I worked with mocks? I have worked with mocks. I hate working with mocks, but I have done it, and I understand why it's valuable. Actually, mocking is actually kind of interesting. I'm trying to remember the exact syntax. Actually, what we could do, since William asked, I'm just going to quickly I'm going to do a quick mock. So, the mocking is very useful when you have a function that has an output that's completely unpredictable. So the easiest instance of this would be, let's say we're getting a random number. Get random number. Okay. So, all right, let's say we want to write this function. I'm going to be real quick about this because, I think mocking is really important. So I'm trying my hardest to remember the syntax. So first of all, get random. Okay. All right, so it should return a random number. All right. I am trying to remember. Actually, I've actually done mocking with this in my code that I was showing you earlier. Where did I put it? I think it was under helpers, instrument ID, get choices. Yeah, this seems about right. Right? Yeah, math.random. Yeah. So yeah, this is a use case for mocking. Okay. All right, so yeah, this is a get choices function. Basically, the purpose of this app is I'm getting a random choice, but basically I'm choosing between one choice and another choice. From this is for like a guess the sound kind of game. So like you have two instruments, but one is playing a sound, and you have to guess what the sound is. That's what this app generates the choices, and yeah. So anyway. Yeah, so a mock would look something like this. So basically, you take a function and then you create this. So math.random is a function, and then you replace it with this implementation, jest.fn. And this is basically saying, whenever this function runs, just return this. That's it. Like I know it's random, but like here it's not. It's always going to return 0.5. So then we're going to get, so result. So we're going to run the function. It is, yeah, it takes a level and a choice. And then, yeah, expect result the ID to be trombone. So this is, yeah, and this passes every single time. And I can actually prove that just by doing this. But yeah, mocking is extremely useful. I would definitely find time to learn about mocking. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around at first, especially when you mock entire modules. But it's very handy. This is like intermediate testing right here. But yeah, I'm glad William brought up mocking. Thank you for that. All right. Does anyone have any questions? But yeah, I was saying, please start testing, make a habit of it. It will save you one day. I guarantee you that. Does anyone have any questions before I close out? All right. I will take that as a, oh, yeah, you're welcome, Franco. It was good to have you in this meetup again. Yeah. All right. This is a good turnout. Thank you guys for coming. And Andres, we're going to talk, so you can stay on the call.
Yep.
So, all right, man. All right. Bye, everyone. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Wait, how do I stop recording? Stop recording.